Hello, my name is John Dransfield, Health Safety Environmental Manager for Hanson, covering the south of the country. I'd like you to join me on this Drivers Toolbox talk, covering the Hold On campaign, which we've refreshed from the previous campaign that we ran a few years ago, which we hope will prevent slip, trips and falls going forward. So what is Hold On? Hold On, or 3 Points of Contact, is a safety campaign being led by the Exec and the Health and Safety, or SHE department. Now, no doubt you're thinking that you can walk around and don't need to be told how to climb up and down in your vehicle or walk around your lorry, but the fact is that 15 out of the 21 lost time incidents in 2017 were attributable to slip, trip and fall incidents of this nature. Whether that be from falling off a platform, falling from the steps or landing foot slipping away, actually once we're down on the ground walking around our vehicles, tripping over poor housekeeping, poor standards on customers or our own Hanson sites, or putting our feet in gullies or slipping in slurry or the like of, these incidents have occurred. Communication-wise, Hanson will be committing to communicating across the business via this Toolbox talk, and also our media supplier has stickers and posters on hand to be able to send out to all sites for display on notice boards, and the stickers being displayed on the vehicles as shown later on in this presentation. So why Hold On? As I said on previous slides, slips and trips are the most common cause of major injuries at work, and they can happen almost anywhere. 95% of major slips result in broken bones, and they can be the initial cause of other incidents such as falls from height. Slips and trips are responsible for, on average, over a third of all reportable major injuries, 20% of over 3-day injuries to employees, 2 fatalities per year, and 50% of all reportable accidents to members of the public that happen in workplaces. They are also the cause of most major injuries in manufacturing and in the service sector. Biggest barriers to putting the problems right. It kind of goes back to what I said a couple of slides ago, is that we all feel that we're very competent, which I'm sure we are. We are very competent in our roles. But we need to understand that the risks that we come so accustomed to every day in our job, we've got to stop and think. So drivers are not fully appreciating the risk sometimes. People have always done it like this. We need a greater awareness of the hazards. We need to recognise them when we're out on sites. So if there are leads or pipes or slurry or whatever it may be, we need to consciously engage with that hazard, with that risk, and develop control measures to address it. Whether that be reporting it to somebody, whether it be avoiding the hazard and then reporting it afterwards, whichever it may be. Take ones and risk assessments. I went out on a trip with a driver this year as part of the safety week, and it's really enlightening to just have a conversation with a driver who, like me, like others, is just doing a regular job on a day-to-day basis. But when we did arrive at the site, the first thing he had to do was to climb out and go and give the ticket to the ticket office. In doing so, he was straight away there was a risk of a slip because of the slurry on the ground. We did a take one, or a take a minute save a life risk assessment. It took us about a minute, if that. And by doing that, by just going through that process, it just highlighted the fact that, okay, there are blocks on the way to the ticket office that he's going to have to walk around, which wasn't too much of an issue, but the slurry on the ground was then consciously in our minds. So when we were climbing down from that vehicle, we were thinking about the slurry on the ground. Okay, we weren't just doing our job as we do every day. So it's just that stop and think. So I can't reinforce the need for the take ones enough. That will incorporate the visual inspections of the ground and ensure that we communicate with the guy. And I know that some drivers think, well, I'm not raising issues, I'm not raising near hits, etc. on sites because it will cause me aggro in the future. If that is the case, you can find different ways of addressing these things. One is to manage it yourself, i.e. if you can move something, then please do. Make it safe yourself. The other thing is to just mention it to the guy in a casual fashion and hope that he takes on board your comments. If you have to go back to that site, then see if it's been removed, see if that guy's done something, mention it to somebody else perhaps, or come back and mention it to site. It is actually down to you. We're all professional people, and we need to decide which is the best tack to address this hazard, and so that it doesn't cause you to have an injury or an incident and then an injury. Quality of vehicle inspections is the last point on this slide, prior to accessing an egress. So again, this should be part of your pre-start checks in the morning, but again throughout the day, checking that the handholds etc. are clean, dry, not slippery etc. and are secure. Same with the steps and haven't got loads of mud on etc. So all of these things put together will hopefully prevent us from having an incident. Recent fall incidents in 2017, and we've had 2 more just in the last couple of weeks. We're now sat in early December, and we've had a couple more incidents with drivers falling over. The safety flashes that you can see are just a sample of the ones we've had this year. The top left is an employee falling from a roller on our contracting sites. The middle top is a driver having fallen from his vehicle when climbing down. The top right and the bottom left are both employees who have been walking down stairs on our sites. Sorry, the top right is actually a driver who has walked around his vehicle and this housekeeping, and I believe there was a drain in that particular incident which his foot went into. Bottom left, or the 2 bottom ones, are steps on our own sites without handrails, you may note, which are more than a couple of steps. There are 3, 4, 5 possibly steps where personnel have come down, they've slipped, and I believe it is those incidents where at least one of them where the injured party actually broke ribs when he fell, landing heavily on his back. Accident prevention. Delivery area, ground risks and assessment. So what's the problem here? It's quite clear, isn't it? The material, it's absolutely clear for us all to see from this slide what the issue is. But if you're looking at not singling out anybody, but if you're looking at the driver in the picture, has he actually registered the hazard which is presented to him? He's focusing on climbing out of his vehicle, walking around his vehicle, doing the side panels up, having had his the load removed from his vehicle. So it's very possible that he's not focusing on the cables on the ground. He only needs to then have a distraction, somebody call him, even a mobile phone go off, which perhaps he shouldn't be answering in that area, but perhaps he does. So with those 2 behaviours, or that behaviour, then presented with the trip hazard on the ground as well, results in him falling and potentially injuring himself quite badly. So what would you do to prevent it? As a delivery driver, as a bystander, as a site visitor, or as a colleague? So I think we all at some point walk past such hazards, and because that's the norm, it's always like that. But unless we do start to challenge these behaviours, because somebody's put that there or left that there, or not coned it off if it's still a work in progress, whatever it may be, we need to challenge those behaviours. We need to do take ones, we need to have safety conversations to try and put these things right. What's the consequences of not doing it right? Well, as we said, they result in incidents and accidents. And I think we've already discussed the bottom one there. Vehicle access and egress assessment continued. So again, what's the problem here? Well, again, plain for everybody to see. I'm sure that a few eyes will go to the PPE, because that's what we always do. We focus on the PPE, think, oh, he hasn't got orange trousers on, or whatever it may be. That may be the case, or they may not be required in that particular site. It might be alongside the road. The driver may have just got out to, I don't know, pick something up from the footwell, and he's just walked around his vehicle. But whatever it may be, the fact is that has that driver done a take one? Has he stopped and thought about, even in his mind, in his head, has he thought about what he's doing? It may be the case that in this circumstance he has, and he feels quite secure, quite safe doing what he's doing. But from a bystander looking, it doesn't look quite right. It's not really a suitable platform to be stood on, and the question also has to be what the material's doing there in the first place. So again, we need to challenge these behaviours. If you do see somebody doing something similar, don't just think, oh well, it's a lump of material, it looks okay, let's move on. Because one day somebody will stand on a similar sort of material, but it won't be quite so sturdy or secure, and he will slip, and he will fall, and he will hurt himself. So again, please challenge these behaviours. Going forward. So the key messages: report dangerous situations and occurrences to site management. Don't wait until there is an accident before you take action. Slip, trips and falls can result in life-changing injuries, as some of our employees have found out this year. Often simple improvements in housekeeping and attitudes are all that is needed to prevent someone from being harmed. Engineering improvements are not always needed to prevent incidents. So we're looking at behaviours as well there. By planning your route, access and egress from your vehicle, and thinking about where you are stepping, you could keep yourself safe. Just on that, I would say that sometimes we have people fall over just clear ground where there's nothing you would say to trip over, almost tripping over their own feet. The reason for that is often because of other distractions, because they're thinking, okay, this is a clear area, I don't really need to focus on what I'm doing, I'm just walking here. You've probably seen people walking along the pavement, totally oblivious to the fact that you're just in front of them, until you're within a couple of feet, because they're focused on a telephone or what's in their bag or whatever else it may be. Do your own risk assessment, whether that be a take one or take a minute, save a life assessment. The kind you do before crossing a road, so that's dynamic, you know. So yes, we can't always do a take one or a take a minute, save a life risk assessment in every single activity and task that we do. But if your dynamic thought process says, actually this isn't quite right, you know, there is some slurry on the ground, that's when to stop. That's when to think, right, I will just do a take one. It will only take me a minute. If it takes you longer than that, it's because there's more hazards that you're identifying. So it's well worth doing. If it stops you having a slip, trip and fall, think about having that slip, trip and fall incident, and think about the repercussions on your life, on your ability to earn, and then the impact on your family, etc. And then work with all hands and staff to prevent future accidents and reduce risks for everyone. So next steps within Hanson are to display the hold on posters in prominent positions around our sites. So this is something that we're obviously going to be doing, or refreshing, because some of our sites still do have these. So we'll be getting the posters made available and displaying in canteens, offices, weighbridges particularly, and concrete plants, etc. Displaying hold on stickers directly on our vehicles. Now again, you should already have these on your vehicles. A lot of them have probably become faded now or peeled off, or perhaps you've got a new vehicle which hasn't got any, or perhaps you're a new driver to within a Hanson and haven't got any. So again, these will be made available. Speak with your fellow drivers, staff, managers, logistics department, or us in the SHE department about simple things that can be done to improve safety. So if you see something, flag it up. You know, if we don't know about it, we can't do anything about it. And don't get tired of reporting something that you've reported before. Keep going, and take part. Please commit to safety. If you're thinking, oh yeah, I've seen all this before, then potentially you are the person who's gonna fall over, slip, trip, and hurt yourself. Okay, if you're thinking, yeah, actually my stickers have faded, I don't do enough take ones or take a minute, save a life assessments. In fact, I haven't done any. I know that book's in my cab somewhere. If you're thinking these things, then great, you know, because then you're going to be hopefully engaged with the process and actually start to do it, and then hopefully it will become part of the day-to-day process if we keep on refreshing these things and challenging each other. Will also be not only the hold-on stickers, but the 3 points of contact stickers are also available. So again, they will be displayed in canteens, offices, etc., on vehicles. Again, to just as another prompt to for you to focus on, to think, I need to get into the habit of always holding on.
So actions required. Initially, be alert for potential hazards and seek help if you feel that your work area is unsafe or the task that you're carrying out is unsafe. When climbing up and down from the vehicles, think about any of the equipment which is unsafe. On mixer trucks, when you're climbing up to the crow's nest, make sure that the handrails are all in place, the ladder handholds are all in place and clean and dry, and so that it will dry whenever possible, or using non-slip gloves, particularly when wet. Signage should be in place to warn of hazards and kept clean and visible. Equipment must be maintained in a good condition. Report any defects. Equipment and vehicles should be inspected daily and in between loads. And PPE wise, make sure you've got the right PPE for the job. Make sure your footwear is correct and clean and free from any debris and it's got a good tread on it. And as I said before, non-slip gloves, particularly in wet conditions when you're climbing up and down from your vehicles. Housekeeping in and around cabs and around the vehicles should be to a high standard. Report anything that you feel is amiss, and complete a take a minute or a risk assessment, a take one, and make sure you submit that to your line manager. So using the correct technique. Please don't raise your eyebrows too high with this one. 15 out of the 21 lost time incidents that we had in 2017 were slip, trips and falls, and many of them were drivers climbing in and out of their vehicles. So always face the machine, always use 3 points of contact, 1 hand, 2 feet, 1 foot, 2 hands. Always use manufacturer's means of access, so the handholds, etc. Always report any defects and always ensure your steps and handrails are clean. If you do store your boots in the top step, like many drivers do, don't try and put your boots on in that position. Don't step on the backs of the boots and walk around the site like that. And also making sure that the laces are all done up and using the correct technique as we climb up and down.
And never take risks. Never think a defect is too minor to report. Never climb onto the machine while carrying anything in your hands, even a rag. Get someone to pass spanners to you or wear a tool belt if doing maintenance. Never work outside protected areas. Never climb onto a machine when the steps are damaged or if automated steps access is not working. Never climb over handrails. If you can't get into the machine using the normal access, don't take any risks and inform your manager. Okay. Just going back to a point near the top there with regard to carrying things in your hands and saying don't, even a rag. I appreciate that we ask you to do pre-start checks and you have a checkbook. You probably have a pen with you, and you're going to climb down. You've probably got your gloves in your vehicle, which you then put in your hand as you climb down the vehicle perhaps. So again, it's getting to a good routine with regard to putting your gloves on first perhaps, and then putting your checkboard, whatever, on the seat, and so you can then, or in the door pocket perhaps, and then climbing down and then taking these things from there rather than having them in your hand as you're doing it. Sticker placement. So sticker placements for the vehicles, doors both sides, outside door and on the inside of the door. Again, sticker placement, as you can see on the tipper and the ready mix truck that you can see in front of you on the access and egress. Sticker placement on tankers, again on the inside of the door and the outside there, those are both on the inside of the door with regard to the 3 points of contact to be maintained. And the hold on sticker itself, keep safe by following the simple advice in this presentation. I'm now going to move on to Cycle Safe. Again, another driver's toolbox talk, so it makes sense to cover this area as well. What is Cycle Safe? So it's an industry-wide campaign. Far too many cycle deaths in the UK. The campaign's being led by the MPA and obviously supported via Hanson, Tarmac, Lafarge, Cemex, AI etc. So it was a 6-point campaign to prevent collisions between cyclists and LGVs. And it was an initiative, and is an initiative, to promote the need for improved awareness around all vulnerable road users. Part of the plan, the health and safety plan, was to improve the safety performance of our hauliers and prevent death or serious injury. So in London, 20% of cyclist fatalities involve HGVs. That's despite the fact that LGVs only make up 4% of the traffic. In 2016, there are 8 cyclist deaths in London. It's not just an issue in London. There's 102 deaths across the UK and 3,397 serious injuries. 14,978 slight injuries. So obviously these are 2016 figures. We also recognise that the cyclist driver and general road safety is a high profile issue which the industries must continue to take steps to address. As you can see, many campaigns or initiatives have taken place with the cyclist mat, if you like, or the lack of vision in that area in front of the vehicles, just being demonstrated in the photo. So the 6-point industry plan, which Hanson signed up to, was to promote driver and industry awareness. This involves training staff, CPC approved module on the safe urban driving, which includes information on interaction with vulnerable road users and cycle safety. Number 2 was to promote the cycle and public awareness. Again, Hanson taking part in Exchanging Places events, and both with cyclists and police forces across the UK. Improving driver training. So the MPQC qualification, now called Site Safety Awareness, includes training on vulnerable road users. Encouraging hauliers to use appropriate technology adaptations to minimise risks. Improve vehicle specifications going forward to improve visibility and awareness, including mirrors, cameras, side scanners, under run bars and turn left warning devices. We also, the 5th step there, is to liaise with schools, raising the awareness in schools and colleges and universities to the dangers that they're potentially unaware of, and working in partnership with our hauliers, customers, and other transport groups, including cycle clubs, and the police and the Department of Transport, to promote awareness. Cycle Safe 4 signage, as you can see in front of you. So you've got the blind spot, take care, approved by FORS, but the other 2 are obviously clearly discouraged. And the signage for concrete vehicles, as you can see, this is a ready-mix truck with the blind spot signage displayed. Again, this is the blind spot sticker on a cement vehicle. On a tanker, quite clearly visible on the inside of the vehicle there. So the next steps: display the blind spot signs on mud flaps blind spot signs, mud flaps in appropriate positions. Monitor condition and cleanliness of the signage as part of your daily site vehicle inspection. Report and replace signs when required. Take part in future events, training and discussions in and around your workplace. Comply with all guidance site rules, and speak to your fellow drivers, site staff, management, logistics department, or the SHE department about the simple things that we can do to improve awareness. And take part. Getting involved is the most important thing. Thank you very much for listening to this Toolbox Talk. I hope it's been useful, and please feel free to contact any of the SHE department or Hanson management teams if you have any points that you'd like to raise or discuss with them. going forward. Thank you very much.